Hey guys, thank you so much for coming back to this channel for another weekly dose of Brandon. That's me. This isn't clickbait. I actually did work for a famous YouTuber, and I'm gonna explain everything. Well, not everything, because I did sign an NDA saying that I wasn't gonna disclose any information, so I'm gonna do my best to speak my truth without dragging my old boss. Side note before we start, this is gonna be a very long video. Go grab a coffee, grab a bagel, eat, poop, pee, then come right back because you're gonna wanna listen to this. Trust me. So I started working for this YouTuber 2 Augusts ago, and I stopped working for this YouTuber 2 Januaries ago. So I was working for this YouTuber for about 5 months. It actually took me a long time to make this video because I did not want to resurface any negative energy. I wanted to focus on staying clear-headed and moving forward. But now I think it's the perfect time to speak my truth. It's about a year after. I feel like I have much more of a detachment from my emotions regarding this matter, and I think I can speak my own truth with a little more clarity. So 2 Augusts ago, I was just planning on leaving my job as a receptionist in a casting office in LA. I needed something a little more flexible that could work with my schedule as an actor and a content creator. And my friend just so happened to DM me a famous YouTuber's Instagram story, and he was saying that he was looking for an editor. So I decided, might as well just shoot my shot and slide into those DMs. So that's exactly what I did. And I actually did know this YouTuber before sliding into his DMs. I actually saw him perform at VidCon. That was about 6 years ago. And I also knew him because he was dating one of these other famous YouTubers that was such a big fan of at the time, and also am still a big fan of. It's funny though, because I actually still listen to her podcast, and she always brings up this YouTuber that I worked for, and every time she says his name, I'm just like, oh my god. And after VidCon, he started popping up more and more in my life. My friend who I went to VidCon with was obsessed with him. On his YouTube channel, he had this video series where he wanted subscribers or just people in general to perform random acts of kindness and film it and then send it to him, and then he would post it on his channel. So my friend asked me to do that. So we went to the dollar store, we got a bunch of toys, and we handed them out at a nearby park. And we filmed that, sent it to him, and he actually put it on his channel. Then a couple years later, when I was attending UCLA, I saw him speak at a YouTube panel at UCLA. It just so happens that he also went to UCLA. And then randomly, I ran into him after the panel, and I was like, I'm Brandon, remember me? I did your random act of kindness video thing. We chatted about that, and that was that. Now cut to a year later. He's looking for an editor. I slide into his DMs. He messages me right back and says, oh, hey, I remember you. Can you come in tomorrow and meet? And I'm like, fuck, that was quick. So the next day I call off of work. I'm sick. And I ditched them to go meet this YouTuber. And the whole time I'm thinking, oh my god, this is so crazy, so strange, but yet it feels so right. We had such a great conversation. I basically get the job right there. And it was perfect timing too, because I already had put in my 2 weeks notice at my other workplace. So all I had to do was survive 1 more week at the casting office and then move right into this job. It was also very cool because I wasn't just editing his videos. He wanted me to do his graphics, his thumbnails, basically be a all-around creative assistant for him, and also manage his Patreon account because we were also raising money with the Thirst Project to build wells in Africa. So it felt like not only was I being creative, I was also doing good for the world. I knew this was going to be the perfect job for me, and it was, for a bit. There were a few signs from the beginning that this road was going to be a little bumpy. Pun intended. Let me explain. So the office space that we were working in was on this rooftop overlooking all of Hollywood. And if you know anything about Hollywood, you know that it's a little grungy. The roads are a little messy, shit all over the place. Literally shit. There is literal shit in the streets. And on my first official week, I was driving over there in Hollywood, and I felt a little bump in my car. And I didn't really think much of it because usually I'm not paying attention to that kind of stuff. I'm usually blasting my music and just singing a lot, so I didn't really think much of it. So I parked on one of the side streets, I walked over to the office and started work. It was a full ass day. So this was one of the first vlogs he was posting after coming back from a hiatus on YouTube. So he was taking this edit very, very, very seriously, to the point of micromanaging every little edit that I did. Literally every 10 minutes, he would ask me, so how's it looking? So how's it going? How does it look? So where are we at? What's going on? And in my head, I'm thinking, oh my God, literally it's only been 10 minutes. The edit doesn't look any different than it did when you looked at it 10 minutes ago. So he wanted to keep seeing my progress every 10 minutes, which would delay the process even more. And then he started to bring some friends over to the office. They would be chit-chatting and drinking beers and just shooting the shit while I edited. I was trying my best not to be an asshole and ignore them, but also do my job so I could leave as quick as possible and go home. And then my meter expired every 2 hours. So every 2 hours, I had to get out of the office, walk about 10 minutes to my car, put in the meter money, and then run back to the office and go right back to work. This was a long ass day. I think I started my day at noon, and I didn't leave until 10 p.m. And I didn't even get the whole edit done. I had to go back home and continue working. But the reason being is that he turned to me and was like, oh, well, you know you can leave, right? You don't have to be here. And I'm thinking, well, you could have told me this hours ago so I could have done this edit in the comfort of my own home. Red flag number 1, communication. He thought I could read his mind, and I definitely could not. Also, I'm just trying to do my job and not get fired on my first week, so I'm not just gonna be like, well, when can I go home? Right off the bat, the foundation for our communication was, how you say, fucked. So I finally leave the office space, go to my car, exhausted. I turn on my car, I start driving, and I realize that my car is going much, much slower than it was before. But I don't really think much of it because I'm just so tired, I just want to go home. Suddenly, a man on the street comes up to my car like this, and he doesn't really speak much English, but he gestures to my tire and says, and I put 2 and 2 together, and I realize I have myself a flat tire. Great. I have never gotten a flat tire, so I didn't really know what to do other than 1, call AAA, and 2, drive myself to the nearest In-N-Out burger and get myself a burger and wait in the parking lot for AAA to come save my ass. So that's exactly what I did. Honestly, I should have known right there from that sign from the universe that shit was about to go down. After that wretched day, things started getting a little bit better. I started working from home a bit more, which was much more conducive for my well-being. However, I did realize that I wasn't really meshing with this YouTuber as much as I hoped. A backstory about me as a person. Generally, I don't like men, particularly straight men, because I don't know how to communicate with them. Growing up, I never had male friends. I had all girlfriends. I just like them better as people. It's easier to talk to them. Me working for a straight man, I knew was gonna be a challenge. This particular straight man is a very nice straight man who loves to talk. He loves to talk about politics and he loves to talk about sports. My least 2 favorite topics of conversation. I also felt like I had to hide a lot of myself. That is more of a me thing than a him thing. I just felt like since he was more of a straight bro kind of guy, I wanted to not show my rainbow flag and hide myself a bit more and not come off super gay. Basically just added to the whole lack of communication theme that we have going on here. But even the times when I would open up about stuff, I didn't feel like he was listening, which was definitely not a me thing. For example, he would say something, and as a functioning human would do, I would respond back and give my own commentary. Coincidentally, he would say something, look at his phone, not say anything for like 30 seconds, and then look up and say, wait, what? And I understand that I mumble. I mean, but I don't always mumble. And he did this a lot of times. I also understand that people just can't multitask while looking at their phone and talking to someone at the same time. I get that. But this happened a lot. So I figured, okay, Brandon, he does not care what you have to say. So I'm just gonna sit here, let him talk and talk about politics and sports, and I'm just gonna nod my head and smile and remain quiet, do my work, get the edit done, and get my check, and repeat the process. I know that is not the most healthy way to go about this, but it kind of worked. But as time went on, this YouTuber got much more frustrating for me. For example, there was one time where he wanted to surprise his good friend to go skydiving. He texted me the night before saying, hey, we're gonna go skydiving in Paris, California. And just so you know, it's about 2 hours away. So this was gonna be a journey. I wasn't expecting that, but I guess this was the life of not working a 9-to-5 office job. So I was #grateful. The car ride wasn't really bad. I was basically very quiet, just trying to capture every moment possible for the video. Now, when you want to skydive, you have to do 3 things. Number 1, sign a bunch of liability forms that basically say you're not going to sue the place, and you also have to fill out a bunch of personal info. Number 2, you have to watch a skydiving tutorial so you know what to expect when falling out of a helicopter. And number 3, you have to weigh yourself because you have to meet a certain weight requirement in order to even skydive. So the whole skydiving thing was a birthday present to the birthday boy who we surprised. And lo and behold, he did not meet the weight requirement. Yep. Good planning. So this YouTuber thought, okay, well, we'll just have him eat something light, take a laxative, go to the bathroom, shit a bit, and come back out, and maybe, just maybe, he'll meet the weight requirement. Folks, he did not meet the weight requirement. So we went all this way to Paris, California to drive all the way back to Los Angeles. You know, I was fine with it because I actually got some good video content. It was very dramatic, but he actually ended up not even posting the video because he didn't want to offend the birthday boy for not meeting the weight requirement, to put it nicely. And this wasn't the first time where he just gave up on posting certain videos. There was one video that we filmed, which actually, funny story, though we don't have many of the same interests, we did have one thing in common: RuPaul's Drag Race. Of course. He actually was on my favorite show, RuPaul's Drag Race. He won something from the show. So this specific video, we were filming the aftermath of that win. However, we filmed that day and he never brought it up ever again, which honestly I was okay with because I accidentally deleted the footage. So it worked out for me in the long run. But this was just another example of the lack of communication that doomed us from the very beginning. I just want to say up front that I am not here to expose this YouTuber. I do think he's a nice guy, but I do have to say that things did get messy real quickly. Throughout the months I worked for him, I realized that there was a pattern of behavior. So I would have a list of things that we would eventually need to do creatively and personally. And what I learned from my previous job working in a casting office was to, number 1, write everything down or you will forget, and 2, prioritize the most important things that need to be done ASAP. I made sure to apply those tools with this job. So I had a bunch of lists of everything that I needed to do, apart from even editing and filming the videos that we were doing. I was managing the Patreon account, so I had to follow up with every single donor and make sure that they were getting all the different type of rewards. I had to make sure I was scheduling certain phone calls. I had to make sure he was making motivational videos for his fans and Instagram shoutouts because that was a part of the rewards, so I had to make sure all of that was intact. I had to remind him to connect with certain people. I had to make sure his vaccinations were in line for when he would travel abroad. I had to eventually help him make a book that he wanted to publish. So I had to figure out all the graphics for that and how to actually make a book. I also had to plan a 24-hour live stream that he wanted to do. There was one day I even had to pick up water jugs for his apartment. So apart from all the non-video yet creative tasks, I also had to do a lot of things that were more in the lines of personal assistant. And side note, that is definitely not what I signed up for. I also had to make sure I was reminding him every day about the tasks that need to get done on the list, whether they were getting done or not. For example, the motivational messages that we needed to do for his fans never got done, even though I would always tell him every day in person that we had to do them, and I would also send a mass email at the end of the day that had it on the list. But they still never got done. And without it really being discussed, I knew what needed to be prioritized, which was A, filming and editing the videos, B, all the Patreon stuff, and C, personal stuff. Everything else was put on the back burner until instructed otherwise. There was even one thing on the list from the very beginning, which was to take a Myers-Briggs personality test so he could figure out how to better communicate with me. That should have been a red flag from the very beginning, because if you do not know how to communicate with me man to man, employer to employee, and need a Myers-Briggs test that you found on Google to do so, then something ain't right. And obviously I put this very low on my totem pole of priorities because A, I thought it was bullshit, and B, if he needs to know how to communicate with me, learn by actually doing so. And maybe don't look at your phone when I'm talking to you. That might help. This is where things got messy. So one day he was particularly stressed. He had just come back from a work trip, so I haven't heard from him in a couple of weeks. I still managed to keep busy. I was working on whatever video needed to be posted that week, and I also was still managing the Patreon account from home. But when I come into work, I could tell something was up. And he turns to me and he says that I am dropping the ball. So he starts naming a bunch of things off of our list that haven't been done yet, and basically projecting whatever shit is going on in his life onto me at the moment, as if I'm the one to blame for all of it. In these kind of situations, I take it. I clam up because I don't know how to properly communicate myself. And in that moment, I was just surprised that he was acting this way with me. He's never gotten mad at me like this before, and it seemed like he was very happy with what I was doing. But I guess that wasn't the case. Honestly, in that moment, I couldn't tell whether I wanted to cuss him out or cry, so I just remained quiet. I tried to stand up for myself. I told him that I was focusing more on the priorities and what really needed to be done. The amount of work that even just went into managing his Patreon account was a lot. Plus, filming and editing the videos. It was a lot of work, and that was what I was prioritizing, and I told him that. He said, well, you never even took the Myers-Briggs test that I told you to take 2 weeks ago. Bitch had me there. But honestly, he mentioned it once, and I wrote it down, and he never brought it up again, so I just assumed it wasn't a priority and it could be done later. So yet again, I was expected to read his mind. So after his little temper tantrum, I tried to do some work, but honestly, I couldn't really concentrate because I was really in my feelings, and he was stressed out, so he decided to make it an early day and dismiss me. I packed my bags and walked to my car, and let me tell you, I was seething. There's only been a few instances in my life where I have been so angry to the point of no return, and I felt myself getting there. So I walked to my car, I put my tripod on the roof of my car just to get my shit together and take a deep breath and get the fuck out of there. And I drive off fast and furious. Suddenly, I hear a bang. I look in my rearview mirror, and I see my tripod, you know, the one that I left on the roof of my car, is in the middle of the streets, banged up, split in two. I go back to rescue it, but it was unsalvageable. I quietly pick up the pieces, I put them in my car, I close the door, and I drive off. 1, 2, 3. And I just scream bloody murder. I don't think I was having a temper tantrum like my boss was, but I was just repressing so much emotion from dealing with this man time and time again that my feelings just had to come out somehow, and they came like a volcano ready to burst. I drove in silence, no music, and just screamed. And I knew after that moment that this was not going to work any longer. I wasn't going to let anybody screw with my well-being just because they were having a bad day. Thankfully, I didn't really have to see him much after that. I was editing more so from home because he was traveling. And we decided on the phone that I was just going to stick to editing his videos and making his thumbnails and doing the graphics and not doing any of the other stuff. So rather than think of him as my boss, I was going to treat him in my mind as more of a part-time client. And that worked out for a hot sec. But honestly, after the first blow up, I was done with his bullshit. So I edited a couple videos after the blow up, and then shit hit the fan again. So as his creative assistant, I was filming and editing his videos and also making the thumbnail for YouTube. That was just part of the deal. But when I went from being a creative assistant to just editing his videos for him, I also assumed that that meant that I was editing and making the thumbnail to post to YouTube, because that's how it was before. So after editing a specific video and thumbnail, I sent my invoice. It included a charge for the edit and a charge for the thumbnail. And immediately, I get a missed call from him. And I purposefully don't pick up because I don't want to talk to him. I didn't want a repeat of last time with his little temper tantrum, so I lied. From the comfort of my own home, I said that I am going on a flight right now and cannot answer my phone and can only text. I thought that if we could text, I would have more control over my side of whatever he wanted to talk about, rather than him just mansplaining to me the whole time. And lo and behold, he was upset that I charged him for the thumbnail. He said that he only wanted me to do the edit, not the thumbnail, and that he specifically told me to do this. The way it was phrased, he was basically talking down to me again. I apologized and told him that it was a misunderstanding and I didn't know that he didn't want the thumbnail. I said to him that it's not about the money for me. He can just not charge me for the thumbnail. I don't care. At this point, I really did not care. And then he was like, well, I feel like I'm being taken advantage of. I said, in response to that, well, I don't want to be taken advantage of either. And that really pissed him off because now he assumed that I thought he was taking advantage of me, which was not the case at all. He obviously just didn't like the fact that I was finally speaking up to him, and he didn't really respect what I had to say. And he ended the conversation with, well, I guess we should just end our working relationship now. Take care. And I said, perfect. I agree, because there was communication problems from the get-go. Take care. And that was that. And I have not heard from him since. And I couldn't be happier. Though this was a really hard 4 to 5 months for me, I actually learned a lot about myself. I learned that I need to take initiative more and communicate how I'm feeling verbally and stand up for myself. I'm not saying I was in the complete right here. I could have done a lot better with communicating with this man. And I did a lot of assuming. I shouldn't just assume. I should be as clear as possible. I was just trying to be quiet and do my job. And sometimes that works, but sometimes that doesn't. This experience also taught me that I don't want to work under somebody ever again. Life is too short to be screaming in a car by yourself. I know that I have enough self-respect to know that that's not what I deserve. I know that I deserve, and you all out there deserve, to be happy and to live life to the fullest and to get what you want on this earth. I decided that I'm gonna focus strictly on my own channel, strictly on the things that I love, and strictly on my career as an actor. And once I made that mental shift, I shit you not, things started working out for me. I can now literally say that I make a living full-time as an actor and a creator. And I have never been happier. I'm now working for myself and I'm thriving. It took me a while to figure this out for myself, but I needed a dark experience like this to really bring me to the light. And I finally found it. And yet again, this video isn't meant to drag this dude at all. That's why I'm not saying his name. But I needed to tell this side of the story for myself and for whoever else needs to hear it. If you got this far, congratulations. And I hope that if you take away anything from this, you take away this. No matter how quiet you peg yourself to be, how introverted you are, how badly you want to be liked by somebody, you need to speak up for yourself, especially in the moment. Because if you don't, you might not see it at first, but shit will eventually hit the fan. And it did for me. And me screaming in my car showed me that I wasn't speaking up for myself. I was repressing everything, and it really affected me. And though I couldn't really speak up in that moment, I'm glad that I can at least make a video a year later and let it all out and feel fucking amazing. So if you like this video, please click all of the buttons, especially the notification bell and the subscribe button, and leave a comment. I would love to hear your own work stories, whether they're good or bad, and just start a discussion and speak our truth, because we have a right to. Okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye.